Okay, calm down. Calm down. Okay. Let's go. Flundereeze!
Joseph, do not make this joke.
What?
This is your conscience, and I am telling you there are going to be consequences if you say Flundereeze nuts.
How do you...
It doesn't matter how I know, because we both know you're going to say it. I am begging you. Don't. It's cheap, it's derivative, it's beneath you. This joke represents a line you do not dare cross, a line between the pedestrian and the exceptional. I am begging you. If you can muster any other intro, any other joke, take it, or doom yourself to a lifetime of the lowest common denominator of comedy.
Flundereeze nuts.
You make me sick. Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. Today we're testing so much more than just a deck. We're testing my abilities as a Sooth. When Flundereeze was first spoiled, every Yugi tuber alive seemed to claim that it would be Tier 1, Tier 0, and in some cases, Tier -1. Not exactly sure what that refers to, but maybe the deck's going to be so dominant it starts topping Magic the Gathering events. Anyway, I was one of the only voices brave, courageous, and sexy enough to fly in the face of the mainstream media and claim the deck's only okay. Let's see if I was right.
This deck is crazy. I think this is a tier 1 deck.
So here's the list, and oh god, I was so happy when Shrug handed me this. I made a few changes, but everything else I ran into online was full of 16 different one-of searches off of MPen, and every Flundereeze at 2. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the pack opening website everyone is using for their own progression series, but you might have also missed it's got a deck builder, a card database, and a wealth of strategy articles. I use it for Chaos Draft, Playoffs, and the Chalice Line monthly deck breakdowns. Give it a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. So with that, let's finagle the Flundereeze. Now, Flundereeze is a series of winged beast-type monsters. Each one of their monsters has, in the background, 3 birds meant to represent the Arctic tern, which has an unusual migration pattern flying yearly from the Arctic to the Antarctic. Along the way, they run into birds from Europe, North and South America, and Africa, before finally meeting up with MPen in Antarctica. Each bird is representative of the environment of the continent it's from. The robins are having a holiday celebration outside of Big Ben, the toucan is enjoying sweet berries in a rainforest, and the eagle is choking to death in the smog of an industrial hellscape. Sorry, it's just been a rough week to be an American. Each Flundereeze has 2 effects. The first activates on summon and provides a small benefit that allows you to normal summon a winged beast monster an additional time. Each Flundereeze is also banished when it leaves the field, and their second effect allows you to return them to your hand from the banished zone when a winged beast monster is normal summoned. It's like the flock is returning home. This is all in service to high-level winged beast monsters, which, using the effect of City of Dreams and Mysterious Map, you can summon on both players' turns. Ideally, your goal is to start a chain of Flundereeze beginning with Robina, cycling through a finisher with Eaglen, and then using MPen to add Dreams, and Dreams to repeat the same cycle for Rise of the Mega Monarch or Apex Avion on your opponent's turn, depending on the matchup. Because MPen can summon any monster, and not just winged beasts, we're also on an Ecclesia and 3 Nadir Servant, which shines as removal, hand trap bait, and occasionally a searcher for your must-open starter using Shreg. Unfortunately, this deck has a huge glaring weakness, which can only be summed up as every single hand trap ever printed. Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veiler on your first summon usually ends your turn. Ghost Ogre on the field spell is devastating. Because each additional normal summon is stapled to a conditional then effect, negating the first effect of a card like Strix with a card like Ghost Bell loses you the game as well. To make matters worse, if you fail to open Robina the British Bird, you are similarly out of luck, Strix and Toucan can't be activated without one player setting up, and Eaglin isn't enough to tribute for a 7-star monster on its own. Listen. I applaud Konami making the counterplay for this deck, defeat the British by any means necessary. I mean, Lord knows they've had it too good for too long, but it doesn't make for a very competitive deck. That said, we're going to try our best. It's not all doom and gloom. Like Prankid, we can shore up this deck's inherent weakness to hand traps with a couple of tech choices I'm happy to show off. Let's do the card by card. First, we've got 3 Robina. Like all Flundereeze, if this card leaves the field, it's banished. It's got a hard once per turn on both of its effects, and you can't special summon the turn you activate either. If a Winged Beast monster is normal summoned to your field while this card is banished, you can add it back to your hand. What makes Robina special is when you normal summon it, you can add a level 4 or lower Winged Beast from your deck to your hand, then normal summon a Winged Beast. Eaglin, on summon, adds a level 7 or higher Winged Beast monster from your deck to your hand, then allows you to normal summon a Winged Beast. Toucan and Strix we're playing at 1. Toucan's on summon effect allows you to target a banished Flundereeze card, add it to your hand, then normal summon a Winged Beast monster, and Strix allows you to banish a card in either graveyard, then normal summon a Winged Beast. They're just good to have for corner cases. Our high-level monsters are Empen. When this card's tribute summoned, you can add a Flundereeze spell trap from your deck to your hand, then immediately after the effect resolves, normal summon any monster. And while you control this card, your opponent can't activate the effect of special summoned monsters in attack position they control. Now, obviously, you can special summon monsters in defense and still resolve their effects, but it's kind of difficult to go through link lines while this is on the field. It also gets over opponent's monsters if it ever survives to the battle phase. We're playing 1 copy of Ryza the Mega Monarch. This card's crazy. You can tribute it by tributing a tribute summoned monster, and if it's tribute summoned, you can target a card on the field and one in either player's graveyard. And if it was tribute summoned by tributing a win monster, an additional card on the field, put the first target on top of the deck, the second target on top of the deck, and then the third target in the hand. Sometimes this is 3 removal spells, but sometimes it's Yata Garasu, allowing you to stack your opponent's top of the deck and then return Ryza to the hand, which you can summon again on your turn repeatedly. After that, we've got a copy of Apex Avion. This is just general negation against back row decks mostly, followed by an Ecclesia. This is really the only copy you need to be playing. You can cycle it from the graveyard with Nadir, and you're going to be able to normal summon it off of the Empen. We are on an Ash Blossom as well. For spells, we're on 3 Pot of Prosperity and 3 Pot of Duality. Now, we can't special summon the turn we activate any of the Flundereeze effects. They all normal summon each other, so Duality's fine, but you really need to find Robina. We're also playing 3 copies of Book of Moon. This is a killer card in this deck. It trades for an opponent's negate if they have set up first, and if you are setting up, it trades with something like an effect failure or an infinite impermanence. Unlike many combo decks, we don't care if our monsters remain face up. The only thing we need is that on-summon effect to resolve. Next, we're playing 3 copies of Disciple of the Nadir. This is a wonderful card, of course, but it's even better in this deck. We can always go through the Entis lines that you are all familiar with. Totally Awesome occasionally comes up because Strix is a water monster, but mostly we're going to be searching our deck by sending copies of Flaget to cycle doubles we have in hand, or if we've banished cards already, sending Shreg in order to add a Flundereeze from our deck to our hand. Next up is Gold Sarcophagus. Comes up occasionally because all of the Flundereeze add themselves back to the hand when you normal summon a Winged Beast. You can maybe start combos if you find this and one of the worse Flundereeze. Terraforming for the Field spell, Called by the Grave because we are very bad against hand traps, and 3 of this bad boy, Flundereeze and the Mysterious Map. This card's incredible. Allows you to reveal a level 1 Flundereeze in your hand, then banish a Flundereeze with a different name from your deck, then immediately after that effect resolves, normal summon the revealed monster. When you normal summon it, the monster that you banished can be added back as well via its own effect. If your opponent ever normal summons, you can just straight up conduct a normal summon. It allows you to play on both players' turns without having to search the trap. We've got Flundereeze in the Unknown Wind. Many people are playing this at 2. I like 1 copy. This allows you to send a monster you control and a card, including spell traps, your opponent controls to the graveyard instead of tributing it. Now, it still counts as a tribute summon. It's a nice way to remove things that are very difficult to remove, but it's really, really clocky. You can always search this with Empen if you found other pieces of spell trap. After that, we've got 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, 2 copies of Dogmatica Punishment, and Flundereeze and the City of Dreams. 2 effects on this one allows you to normal summon a level 4 or lower Winged Beast monster, and if you tribute a level 7 or higher monster while this card is in your graveyard, which you usually will, you can banish it to Book of Moon every card your opponent controls. A great way to ensure you survive until the next turn, and can Ryza 2 or 3 times. In the extra, we're on 5-Headed Dragon for corner case Nadir Servant pitches, Fossil Warrior Skull King, Triple Elder Entity and Tis, Wind Pegasus Ad Ignister, a Zeus line with Lil Fucko, Shrike, Flaget, Link Spider, Linkaribo, and Relinquished Anima. Now keep in mind, we are pretty much never summoning any of this because all of our monsters lock us from specialing, but sometimes our opponent will pass back to us while we have a bunch of level 1 monsters on our side of the field and we can make something happen. Alright, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Traptrix Eldritch, and God, talk about two extremely powerful archetypes that just do not have a home in the modern metagame. Our opponent's going to go Sarah set to pass, not particularly exciting. We're going to begin with a copy of Servant. We're going to send an Entis to the graveyard and go for the Sarah before they can activate a trap card, only to walk into the trap card. Okay, Gravediggers is going to do 2 to us. They'll trigger Sarah. That'll get Dionea. Dionea will trigger and get back the Gravediggers, and then they will trigger the second effect of Sarah. They're going to set a Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare that will literally never be activated. We'll go for a Terraforming to get a copy of the map. We'll activate the map and reveal the Robina in our hand to banish a Strix from deck. We'll normal summon the Robina, trigger its effect, and chain block with the Strix so we can add it back to hand as well as an Eaglin. We'll normal summon the Eaglin and activate the effect. We get from deck to hand an M-Pen. Then we will normal summon the M-Pen, trigger its effect, and walk straight into a Floodgate. Not a big deal, honestly. We only care about the on-summon effect of M-Pen, which allows us to normal summon an Ecclesia after we add the City of Dreams to hand. We'll go ahead and get a punishment, and then we'll fire off a Pot of Duality, finding off the top. Nothing really. I guess we'll take the Avion and go to the battle phase, walking over the Sarah, and then in main phase 2, we'll go ahead and set 3. Feeling really good about this one. Our opponent's going to draw for turn. They will attempt to leave the main phase. We'll activate City of Dreams here and tribute summon a Reza the Mega Monarch by going through the Robina and Eaglin line once again. That's going to allow us to bounce 1 card our opponent controls, put 2 of them back on top of the deck, and trigger the effect of Robina and Eaglin and City of Dreams, which we definitely shouldn't be triggering, but it's a funny little flex. We'll put all those cards back. Our opponent will set 5 and pass back to us. I feel really good because I know what their draws are, so I figure I want to take as few actions as possible. We're just going to Unknown Wind and attack directly. Unfortunately, the card we tribute for Unknown Wind so we can summon Apex Avion is a Wakero, so they are going to be able to go ahead and get themselves a copy of Scarlet Sanguine. They draw for turn. It's a Cursed Eldland. This is the first Eldritch I'm seeing. They'll bring out the Golden Boy and go to the battle phase. They'll attack into our monster. We'll Punishment here. They'll chain Conquistador. We'll chain Apex Avion, and then at Chain Resolution, we will send Fossil because we know that they have a Gravedigger set. We'll Called by this copy of Eldritch as they attempt to reanimate it, and they will concede. So it's time for game 2, and our opponent is playing another Bode deck I cannot wait to take out for a spin, Hero. Unfortunately, this game showcases one of the major weaknesses of the Flundereeze strategy. We're going to begin with a copy of Nadir's Servant. We're going to send a Flagette to the graveyard because I want to see if I can cycle this hand that has too many starters in it. Oh, and Ash is good. We'll go for Robina and... we have a Called by for any hand trap, an Ash for a Gamma, but we can't beat Infib. Our opponent's going to activate a Fusion Destiny. They drew off the top. Must be nice. We'll go for the Ash Blossom here. They'll go for the Stratos to get a copy of Ferris. They'll activate Ferris, pitching the Celestial. And God, if we only had our Ash Blossom, we could stop this increase. They'll go for the increase, sending the Ferris and activating the increase to summon a copy of Vion from deck. They'll trigger the effect of the Vion in order to send a Shadow Mist to the graveyard. They're going to use the Shadow Mist to get an Honesty Neos. Weird. And then Vion to add a Polymerization to hand. Why would they be... I see. Well, I figure we aren't dead. We can use Called by the Grave here to keep Destiny Heroes out of the graveyard so they can't go for a Cross Crusader line. They're going to go for 25 for 18 for 9, and I think we're fine. I mean, this isn't hardly... Right. All right, on to game 3. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing Virtual World, and... I'm going to be real with you. I can never tell if a Virtual World hand is even remotely good or not. They just sit down, perform some sort of alchemy, and end on Shen Shen Chuche. Our hand is fine, but a lot depends on this Prosperity. We're going to begin with this Prosperity, finding off the top. Ooh, a Servant. Yeah, we're going to use this Gold Sarcophagus to get the Robina into rotation, so we will take the Servant. We're going to activate it. Our opponent ashes, but I don't Called by. I have them on 2 hand traps, and I would much prefer for the more impactful Robina to resolve. We'll go for Toucan, and you can't Called that. Come on. Oh, God. Okay, well, at least I had them correct on 2 hand traps. They're going to go for ZC and Lulu, and this is the entire combo. They'll send a Qinglong to the graveyard, then activate the effect, pitching a Zhuan-Wu from hand, getting a Lao Lao, going into a Stardust Charge Warrior, and the way they've done this, I can actually keep them off Virtual Worlds if they don't have a Kaloon, and we banish their target for Zhuan-Wu. It gets removed, and they're forced to pass, and we draw the best card in our deck. Oh, thank you, Lord. Oh, we're going to send a copy of Shrike so we can search Eaglin from deck. Did you know this card could do this? We'll go ahead and get a copy of Toucan and Robina back to hand from our Banished Zone alongside an M-Pen off of the Eaglin search. We're going to activate the effect of Robina, then activate the effect of Strix in order to banish this Lulu from the graveyard, just filling that bad boy up. We're going to go for the M-Pen here and then trigger the effects of both of our birds in the Banished Zone in order to get Flundereeze in the City of Dreams, then normal summon an Ecclesia for for a punishment. From here, we'll go to the battle phase. Our opponent will fire the Chuche. I was expecting it, and they did wait as long as they possibly could. Good patience on their part. We're going to set 2 cards and pass back to our opponent. We'll activate punishment in draw step. That way, they're forced to chain the Chuche because they know we are going to send an Entist to the graveyard to keep them off of virtual worlds. They're forced to use their normal summon on Lulu. Wheel City of Dreams will go for the Eaglin. And they drew the Ash Blossom for turn. Jeez. Okay, they're going to go for the Lau Lau. This is not the combo they wanted to do, but it does go from Fan into Zeus, which is probably good enough. They're going to go for Gaia, Dragon, and Zeus before passing back to us. For turn, we draw a Pot of Duality. We'll lead by imperming the Zeus. They'll Zeus in response, and we could do this. We'll go for Duality, finding off the top a Book of Moon. That's crazy. Okay, we're going to go for the Toucan. That's going to trigger the Eaglin, and we're going to add back this copy of Robina. We'll normal summon the Robina, activate the effect. We can just get whatever here. We're pretty much out of targets. We'll Eaglin here. We still do have the Rise of the Mega Monarch, and we'll go for the Strix so we can banish this copy of Qinglong from the graveyard as well. So Ryza here is very, very powerful. It can put itself back in the hand and stack the top of our opponent's deck to a Lulu. That way we know they have to commit to a normal summoned Lulu if they want to do anything, and we have a book in hand. They'll set 1 card and pass. That telegraphs that it's a Chuche. All we have to do is out that. We're not doing a lot of damage per turn, but we functionally Yada locked our opponent, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to go for the Eaglin effect here in order to get an Apex Avian and tribute summon this Raise of the Mega Monarch. They will chain the effect of the Chuche, but it's a little late. I still get to do so much stacking of their deck that I don't think it's going to matter. At resolution, I'll put that Chuche and a card from the graveyard back on top of the deck. We're only getting in for 15. We know that the top card is going to be exactly Lau Lau. They have to commit to the normal summon if they want a combo, but they know we have the book and can stop it. As a result, we can normal summon this copy of Toucan instead in order to add this Robina back to hand, use Robina's effect in order to add one of our last remaining targets before going into an Apex Avian and triggering both the effect of the Toucan and the Strix. After that, we can just go to the battle phase. We know the top card of their deck is a Chuche. They have no way to trigger or make live the Chuche. They have no way to commit to a combo, and add Book of Moon, they'll concede. So it's time for game 2, and our opponent has full combo, and we have no hand traps. They're going to begin with a copy of Kaloon. That's going to get a Chuche to their side of the field, which they will target with a Lulu. From here, they can use the Lulu to send a copy of Qinglong to the graveyard and get a ZC to hand, which they will activate to send a Zhuanwu to the graveyard, and then afterwards make a Stardust Charge Warrior. After that resolves, they can activate the graveyard effect of the Qinglong in order to add a Lau Lau to hand, then activate Lau Lau, targeting this copy of Chuche to send Yan Yan to the graveyard, which will reborn after the Lau Lau reborns of the ZC. This allows them to make a Shen Shen and what the hell is this card? I've never seen it. All right, let's just not let it get to 4,000, I suppose. This is like uniquely good against us because our monsters trigger so often. Okay, let's see how little we can commit to this board. We're going to begin with a copy of Servant, popping their copy of Chuche with an Entis, followed up with a Prosperity. We do get a Book of Moon, which is nice, but I don't actually feel super threatened by the Wolfra yet. We're going to go for a Robina. They will affect Valor, but that's why we added the Book of Moon. We're going to resolve the Robina. We're going to normal summon an Eaglin, then trigger Eaglin's effect for an M-Pen. Unfortunately, it looks like Wolf will be making it to 4K, but only as we get the M-Pen to our side of the field. We'll activate M-Pen's effect in order to add from our deck to our hand a copy of Dreams, then normal summon an Ecclesia, activate that effect to get ourselves a copy of Punishment. We'll go to the battle phase, activate M-Pen, and they must have misread it or something. Wow, we got over it for free. They'll take their turn as we have 3 set. They'll begin with a copy of Kaloon. They're going to set a copy of Qinglong. They're going to use Qinglong to negate M-Pen. Makes sense because it's kind of floodgating them. Then they will go for a Lulu. They're going to activate the graveyard effect of Qinglong. They're going to get a 2/2. They'll normal the 2/2, and now it is time to enter the City of Dreams. We'll go for Robina, triggering the effect of Robina to get a copy of Eaglin. We'll normal summon the Eaglin. That Eaglin is going to trigger in the same chain as the Robina, putting the Robina back in our hand, and a Ryza from our deck to our hand as well. We'll go for the Strix next, so we can banish this copy of Zhuanwu. So when we go for the Rise of the Mega Monarch, they have nothing with which to recoup their board. We're going to put back the Shen Shen and the 2/2 and the Yan Yan, Yada locking them and leaving them with nothing. They'll go to battle, will Punishment their last remaining monster, Entising their back row, and they will concede. So we're back with the deck, and uh-oh. I might have been wrong? That's shocking, of course, because it would be the first time that I've ever been wrong about anything ever, but I'm the bigger man. I can admit when I was very slightly off base in a series of games that don't count. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, it's got a 1 card. I mean, that's pretty much a prerequisite to being playable these days, but it, of course, helps immensely that the deck does have one. You can set up the whole line for the low, low cost of 1 Robina. 2, Mega Ryza the Storm Monarch is unfortunately extremely strong. I was kind of hoping he was all hype, but the ability to be either 3 removal spells or Yatagarasu is unmatched, honestly. And 3, Book of Moon is so good. It's so good in this deck. It trades for a negate on the draw, but on the play, it blanks Imperm and Valor, and you have no problems tributing a monster that's face down. And the cons. 1, Robina has a huge target on its head. Smart opponents will wait for exactly that card to deploy their negation, and without a called or a book, you often lose on the spot. 2, because every effect has to resolve, almost every deck can manage an interruption even if they're not playing hand traps. Something like chaining a Xuanwu to blank a Strix can prevent you from normal summoning. And 3, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! You really want to spend your time playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Normal summoning? So that's that. As always, thanks to my patrons Dominic Ernst, Hakuo, AJBYGO, Alex Perea, Andrew Eller, BB Poison, Blue Fan Fiction Inc., Brandon Field, Brandon Keys, Colin Miller, Crispy, Dan the Man Hoban, Dubs Rewatcher, Dying Eyes, Frosty, Ikaliba Brot, Jack Sack PhD, King Magic Ruler, Night Mary, Kylie Denton, Major Rusty, Mike Carlotti, Not Witty, Robot, Rocky Hernandez, Rose Lapine, Sarah Rutledge, Seeker, Space Condor, Space Dandy 1993, Test Subject 213, Adam Trevino, Adrian Bra, Adventure Spence, Afro Ninja 123, Alex Dominguez, Alfred Hendricks, Amaranta V, Andrew Benson, Andrew Ferruia, Andrew Horseman, Apex TCG, Ballin Stalin, Basement Madoka, Benjamin Cole Kierman, Billy Williams, Blackacre, Blake Root, Blair, Brendan Peterson, Breaker the Outrage, Brody Colson, Captain Breadbeard, Cash Money Yuki, Chad Bortz, Chad Weatherington, Chase Smith, Chorps Away, CG Alex, Cole Schulian, Colin Gustafson, Control for the Win, Crystal Red Fox, Daffy Deathclock, Dan Schwer, Danny Guadalupe, Darcy Tevz, Dive Missile, Dogma, Dr. Batman, Distrin, LP Got Band, Sag, Emily V, Emperor Stove, Ernesto Ibarra, Fisker Whiskers, FUTR, Game of Wolf, Gavin K, Griever, Hank Cheesecake, Helios the Helios, Haroof, How to Lose, Josemina, Hunter Smith, I Have Nothing But Contempt for This Court, Incredibly Slow, Isaac Jackson, Jane Linya, Jason Leonard, Jay Gordon, Jeff Leonard, Jesse Cox, Jonathan Wallace, Jupe, Jose Luis Cortez, Joy Orjon, Juliet Julian, Callie, Kiffin Hirschgerway, Corey Hess, Gurakaze, Lake Bayer, Lawrence, Leah Lisblitz, Light Knight, Lottie, Lovro Plesse, Lucas Angles, Lucas Geerdes, Lucas Aritzo Hansen, Major Duncan, Matthew Taylor, Max Merb, Mezzo Emrys, Michael Marks, Michael Oskvark, Miles Edgelord, Mimes Are Creepy, Miyuna Arashi, Mr. Ease, Nick Extreme 99, Neru Soup, Nitro Skull, Nix Dolores, Node Pop, Noom, Omase, One Glad Morning, Austrin, Part 2, Pizer, Picnic Blasted, Precise Spike 13, Pro FP2, Chrono, Raska, Riley Malo, Sam Pinney, Sapphic Ashley, Scrafted, Sean Deal, Sean Flynn, Second Sandoria, Seraphine, Shy, SSJ Magin Slayer, Standards Objective, Steve McMullen, Swinkles, Tate Rosencutter, The Carl Moxley, The Saucy Pickle, This Machine 237, Thought Auditor, Violet Prison, Why Am I Here, Yordle Hu, Yuri's Best, and Yukie. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing. And if you want to be part of the process, consider following me on Twitch as well. See you next time.